Letter 357 by Charles Lamb. No date, November 1824. Illustrisimo Signor, I have obeyed your mandate to a tittle. I accompany this with a volume, but what have you done with the first I sent you? Have you swapped it with some lazzaroni for macaroni? Or pledged it with a gondolier for a passage? Peradventure, the Cardinal Gonsalvi took a fancy to it. His eminence has done my nearness an honor. 'Tis but a step to the Vatican. As you judge, my works do not enrich the workman, but I get vat I can for 'em. They keep dragging me on, a poor, worn mill horse in the eternal round of the damned magazine. But 'tis they are blind, not I Colburn, where I recognize with delight the gay W. Honeycomb renovated, hath the ascendancy. I was with the Novellos last week. They have a large, cheap house and garden, with a dainty library, magnificent without books. But what will make you bless yourself? I am too old for wonder. Something has touched the right organ in Vincentio at last. He attends a Wesleyan chapel on Kingsland Green. He at first tried to laugh it off. He only went for the singing, but the cloven foot, I retract, the lamb's trotters, are at length apparent. Mary Isabella attributes it to a lightness induced by his headaches, but I think I see in it a less accidental influence. Mr. Clark is at perfect staggers. The whole fabric of his infidelity is shaken. He has no one to join him in his coarse insults and indecent obstreperousnesses against Christianity, for Holmes, the bonny Holmes, is gone to Salisbury to be organist, and Isabella and the Clark make but a feeble quorum. The children have all nice, neat little clasped prayer books, and I have laid out 7s, 8d, in Watts's hymns for Christmas presents for them. The eldest girl alone holds out. She has been at Boulogne, skirting upon the vast focus of atheism and imported bad principles in patois French, but the strongholds are crumbling. N. appears as yet to have but a confused notion of the atonement. It makes him giddy, he says, to think much about it, but such giddiness is spiritual sobriety. Well, Byron is gone, and is now the best poet in England. Fill up the gap to your fancy. Barry Cornwall has at last carried the pretty A. They are just in the treacle moon. Hope it won't clog his wings, Gaum we used to say at school. Mary, my sister, has worn me out with 8 weeks' cold and toothache, her average compliment in the winter, and it will not go away. She is otherwise well and reads novels all day long. She has had an exempt year, a good year, for which, forgetting the minor calamity, she and I are most thankful. Alsager is in a flourishing house, with wife and children about him, in Mecklenburg Square, almost too fine to visit. Baron Field is come home from Sydney, but as yet I can hear no tidings of a pension. He is plump and friendly, his wife really a very superior woman. He resumes the bar. I have got acquainted with Mr. Irving, the Scotch preacher, whose fame must have reached you. He is a humble disciple at the foot of Gamaliel SDC. Judge how his own sectarists must stare when I tell you he has dedicated a book to SDC, acknowledging to have learnt more of the nature of faith, Christianity, and Christian church from him than from all the men he ever conversed with. He is a most amiable, sincere, modest man in a room, this Bonerges in the temple. Mrs. Montague told him the dedication would do him no good. That shall be a reason for doing it, was his answer. Judge now whether this man be a quack. Dear H, take this imperfect notelet for a letter. It looks so much the more like conversing on nearer terms. Love to all the Hunts, old friend Thornton and all. Yours ever, C. Lamb. Leigh Hunt was still living at Genoa. Shelley and Byron, whom he had left England to join, were both dead. Lamb, I assume, sent him a second copy of Elia with this letter. Cardinal Gonsalvi was Ercole Gonsalvi, 1757-1824, secretary to Pius Roman VII, and a patron of the arts. Lawrence painted him. For the present state of the London magazine, see next letter. Leigh Hunt contributed to Colburn's new monthly magazine, among other things, a series of papers on the months. Hunt also contributed an account of the Honeycomb family, by Harry Honeycomb. By Mary Isabella Lamb meant Mary Sibylla Novello, Vincent Novello's wife. The eldest girl was Mary Victoria, afterwards the wife of Charles Cowden Clark, the Mr. Clark mentioned here. Novello, now living at Shackelford Green, remained a good Roman Catholic to the end. Holmes was Edward Holmes, 1797-1859, a pupil of Cowden Clark's father at Enfield and schoolfellow of Keats. He had lived with the Novellos, studying music, and later became a musical writer and teacher, and the biographer of Mozart. Mrs. Barrenfield was a Miss Jane Carncroft, to whom Lamb addressed some album verses, see Vol. Roman 4, of this edition. Leigh Hunt knew of Field's return, for he had contributed to the new monthly earlier in the year, a rhymed letter to him in which he welcomed him home again. Irving was Edward Irving, 1792–1834, afterwards the founder of the Catholic Apostolic sect, then drawing people to the chapel in Hatton Garden, attached to the Caledonian Asylum. The dedication, to which Lamb alludes more than once in his correspondence, was that of his work, For Missionaries After the Apostolical School, a series of orations in 4 parts, 1825. It runs, "Unknown as you are, in the true character either of your mind or of your heart, to the greater part of your countrymen, and misrepresented as your works have been, by those who have the ear of the vulgar, it will seem wonderful to many that I should make choice of you, from the circle of my friends, to dedicate to you these beginnings of my thoughts upon the most important subject of these or any times. And when I state the reason to be, that you have been more profitable to my faith in orthodox doctrine, to my spiritual understanding of the Word of God, and to my right conception of the Christian Church, than any or all of the men with whom I have entertained friendship and conversation, it will perhaps still more astonish the mind, and stagger the belief of those who have adopted, as once I did myself, the misrepresentations which are purchased for a hire and vended for a price, concerning your character and works. You have only to shut your ear to what they ignorantly say of you, and earnestly to meditate the deep thoughts with which you are instinct, and give them a suitable body and form that they may live, then silently commit them to the good sense of ages yet to come, in order to be ranked hereafter amongst the most gifted sages and greatest benefactors of your country. Enjoy and occupy the quiet which, after many trials, the providence of God hath bestowed upon you, in the bosom of your friends, and may you be spared until you have made known the multitude of your thoughts, unto those who at present value, or shall hereafter arise to value, their worth. I have partaken so much high intellectual enjoyment from being admitted into the close and familiar intercourse with which you have honored me, and your many conversations concerning the revelations of the Christian faith have been so profitable to me in every sense, as a student and a preacher of the gospel, as a spiritual man and a Christian pastor, and your high intelligence and great learning have at all times so kindly stooped to my ignorance and inexperience, that not merely with the affection of friend to friend, and the honor due from youth to experienced age, but with the gratitude of a disciple to a wise and generous teacher, of an anxious inquirer to the good man who hath helped him in the way of truth, I do now presume to offer you the first fruits of my mind, since it received a new impulse towards truth and a new insight into its depths from listening to your discourse. Accept them in good part, and be assured that however insignificant in themselves, they are the offering of a heart which loves your heart, and of a mind which looks up with reverence to your mind. Old friend Thornton was Leigh Hunt's son, Thornton Leigh Hunt, whom Lamb had addressed in verse in 1815 as my favorite child. He was now 14.